Book of Exodus, Chapter 1. These are the names of the children of Israel that went into Egypt with Jacob. They went in every man with his household: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zabulon and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Aser. And all the souls that came out of Jacob's child were 70. But Joseph was in Egypt. After he was dead, and all his brethren, and all that generation, the children of Israel increased and sprung up into multitudes, and growing exceedingly strong, they filled the land. In the meantime, there arose a new king over Egypt, that knew not Joseph. And he said to his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are numerous and stronger than we. Come, let us wisely oppress them, lest they multiply. And if any war shall rise against us, join with our enemies, and having overcome us, depart out of the land. Therefore he set over them masters of the works, to afflict them with burdens. And they built for Pharaoh cities of tabernacles, Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they oppressed them, the more they were multiplied and decreased. And the Egyptians hated the children of Israel, and afflicted them and mocked them. And they made their life bitter with hard works, in clay and brick, and with all manner of service, whereat they were overcharged in the works of the earth. And the king of Egypt spoke to the midwives of the Hebrews, of whom one was called Sephora, the other Puah, commanding them, When you shall do the office of midwives to the Hebrew woman, and the time of delivery is come, if it be a man-child, kill it; if a woman, keep it alive. But the midwives feared God, and they did not do as the king of Egypt had commanded, but saved the man children. They answered, The Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian woman, for they themselves are skillful in the office of a midwife, and they are delivered before we come to them. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew exceedingly strong. And because the midwives feared God, he built them houses. Pharaoh therefore charged all his people, saying, Whatsoever shall be born of the male sex, ye shall cast into the river; whatsoever of the female, ye shall save alive. End of chapter number 1. Chapter number 2. After this, there went a man of the house of Levi, and took a wife of his own kindred. And she conceived and bore a son, and seeing him a godly child, hid him 3 months. And when she could hide him no longer, she took a basket made of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and pitch, and put the little babe therein, and laid him in the sedges by the river's brink. His sister standing afar off, and taking notice what would be done. And behold, the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself in the river, and her maids walked by the river's brink. And when she saw the basket in the sedges, she sent one of her maids for it. And when it was brought, she opened it, and seeing within it an infant crying, having compassion on it, she said, This is one of the babes of the Hebrews. And the child's sister said to her, Shall I go and call to thee a Hebrew woman to nurse the babe? She answered, Go. The maid went and called her mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Take this child and nurse him for me. I will give thee the wages. The woman took and nursed the child, and when he was grown up, she delivered him to Pharaoh's daughter. And she adopted him for a son and called him Moses, saying, "Because I took him out of the water." In those days, after Moses was grown up, he went out to his brethren, and saw their affliction, and an Egyptian striking one of the Hebrews, his brethren. And when he had looked about this way and that way, and saw no one there, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And going out the next day, he saw two Hebrews quarreling, and he said to him that did the wrong, "Why strikest thou thy neighbor?" But he answered, "Who hath appointed thee prince and judge over us? Wilt thou kill me as thou didst yesterday kill the Egyptian?" Moses feared and said, "How is this come to be known?" And Pharaoh heard of this word and sought to kill Moses. But he fled from his sight and abode in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. And the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, who came to draw water. And when the troughs were filled, desired to water their father's flocks. And the shepherds came and drove them away. And Moses arose, and defending the maids, watered their sheep. They answered, "A man of Egypt delivered us from the hands of the shepherds, and he drew water also with us, and gave the sheep to drink." But he said, "Where is he? Why have you let the man go? Call him that may eat bread." And Moses swore that he would dwell with him. He took Sephora his daughter to wife, and she bore him a son, whom he called Gershom, saying, "I have been a stranger in a foreign country." And she bore another, whom he called Eleazar, saying, "For the God of my father, my helper, hath delivered me out of the hand of the Pharaoh." Now after a long time the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel groaning cried out because of the works, and their cry went up unto God from the works. And he heard their groaning, and remembered the covenant which he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the Lord looked upon the children of Israel, and he knew them. End of chapter number 2. Chapter number 3. Now Moses fed the sheep of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he drove the flock to the inner parts of the desert, and came to the mountain of God, Horeb. And the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush, and he saw that the bush was on fire, and was not burnt. And Moses said, "I will go and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt." And when the Lord saw that he went forward to see, he called to him out of the midst of the bush, and said, "Moses, Moses." And he answered, "Here I am." And he said, "Come not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground." And he said, "I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Moses hid his face, for he durst not look at God. And the Lord said to him, "I have seen the affliction of my people in Egypt, and I have heard their cry because of the rigor of them that are ever the works. And knowing their sorrow, I am come down to deliver them out of the hands of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of that land into a good and spacious land, into a land that floweth with milk and honey, to the places of the Canaanite, and Hittite, and Amorite, and Pharisite, and Hivite, and the Jebusite. For the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have seen their affliction, wherewith they are oppressed by the Egyptians. But come, and I will send thee to Pharaoh, and that thou mayst bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said to him, I will be with thee, and these thou shalt have foreseen that I have sent thee. When thou shalt have brought my people out of Egypt, thou shalt offer sacrifice to God upon this mountain. Moses said to God, Lo, I shall go to the children of Israel, and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you. If they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. He said, Thou shalt to say to the children of Israel, He who is hath sent me to you. And God said again to Moses, Thou shalt to say to children of Israel, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham's, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Go and gather together the ancients of Israel, and thou shalt say to them, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath appeared to me, saying, Visiting, I have visited you, and I have seen all that bad befallen you in Egypt. And I have said the word to bring you forth out of the affliction of Egypt into the land of the Canaanite, and Hittite, and Amorite, and Pherezite, and Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land that floweth with milk and honey. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go, but by a mighty hand. For I will stretch forth my hand, and will strike Egypt with all my wonders, which I will do in the midst of them. After this he will let you go, and I will give favor to this people in the sight of the Egyptians. And when you go forth, you shall not depart empty, but every woman shall ask of her neighbor and of her that is in her house vessels of silver and of gold, and raiment, and you shall put them on your sons and daughters, and shall spoil Egypt. End of chapter number 3.